You get on your roll first.
Oh, we're good. We're just framing up.
Let me make sure I get my times right.
You think I can squeeze in right here, sir?
Go ahead. Come on.
I don't want to block your shot. Is that good?
Yeah. That's what I just said. All right, cool.
Did you turn that off?
I did.
Yeah, I got you, T.
Yeah, nobody said it.
News Now is following breaking news out of Hampton. We're following a fire at a condominium complex on Island Cove Court in Hampton. And this is a pretty big fire at this complex. Right now, we're listening to a news conference by Battalion Chief Anthony Chittum. Let's listen in.
Most likely it originated in the area of the second floor.
You guys don't have any kind of an idea of what had started this?
No, it's too early in our investigation right now. Myself and our fire marshals have not even entered the scene yet, since they're still putting out hotspots.
So anything challenging in this fire?
The most challenging part of this particular is actually just the street itself where it's on. If you look, you'll notice it's extremely narrow, so we actually weren't able to get as much equipment in as we needed, so we actually used more personnel on the ground than we did aerials.
Does that delay your response?
It doesn't delay the response. It just, once we set up, it delays some of the tactics that we're able to do, especially with this particular unit, how it has water behind it. Normally we'd like to try to attack a fire in a building from multiple sides, but in this particular case we were only able to do it from Alpha, the front side, and then we had to pull hand lines to the rear.
Is Red Cross assisting any of the people displaced?
At this time, the Red Cross hasn't been assisted. The apartment complex has been assisting. There are 12 units impacted. I'm not sure the number of people. All 12 units in that building, though, are uninhabitable.
Is the building going to be deemed a total loss?
Again, too early to say. I haven't been in any of the downstairs ones to be able to look and tell you the damage. But normally, with this much damage, this much water being flowed, water damage is a large part of the problem.
Were there a sprinkler system? I know modern condos sometimes have those.
Yes, in this particular one, there is no sprinkler system. At the building code at the time when they were built, it wasn't required.
86, right?
I'm not sure on the year it was built.
I know you guys said you haven't gone in there yet, so you probably can't answer this question, but I always ask it. At this point, is there any reason to think that this may have been arson?
No, at this time, there's nothing that makes us think that this fire is suspicious, but it's still very early.
Does the weather at all play a factor? I mean, it's not super windy, but we do have a little bit of a breeze. Did that play a factor at all?
Well, the wind coming off the water itself tends to a lot of times be able to push fire. I mean, it is probably 10 to 12 miles an hour with gusts maybe a little bit more. So it does hamper some of the efforts with the amount of smoke and the amount of fire that is wind driven.
Do you have a message to other neighbors in this community, kind of warning them or, making sure they're cautious of anything? I know you haven't really deduced a cause of this fire, but anything you're generally warning neighbors to be aware of?
Same thing we tell everyone else, have a working smoke alarm. Smoke alarms save lives. Smoke alarms are the first and the most important thing you can do to make sure your family is safe. And then next would be have a fire exit plan.
There's a lot of smoke put off by this fire. Is there any air quality concerns for people who may be, sensitive to asthma, things like that?
Initially, when we arrived, there was quite a bit of smoke, but it dissipates rather quickly. At this time, there's no concerns for air quality.
Fire, I'm not going to say the fire is obviously out or anything like this, but as we're looking at it right now, what's the plan of attack for you all to do whatever you got to do from this point forward? Because it still looks like there's a lot going on.
So currently, what we'll try to do is we want to make sure there are no hot spots. We want to make sure that when you have a partial collapse like we had, a lot of the debris underneath is still burning and water doesn't get to that. So that's why you still see them using aerial devices to put a large amount of water on it to try to hit all those hot spots before we go in there.
Is there any reason where nearby neighbors who are kind of on this same adjoining road that weren't really affected by the fire flame-wise, is there any reason they may need to be evacuated at all?
No, not at this time. There's no reason to do any evacuation. All right, I keep staring at you, even though you're there.
I'm using, obviously, again, I shouldn't be using this, but no one's gone into the structure to see if there's anything going on here.
When you say in the structure, initially firefighters were in the structure. At this time, we've done what we call a primary and a secondary search. So of the bottom apartments, the ones that don't have collapsed, that haven't been collapsed, we go in and we want to make sure that we haven't missed any potential victims. So that's why it's called a primary and a secondary search.
So you've done the primary?
Yes, right, and secondary on the available apartments.
Just to reiterate, to clarify, you said 2 people were rescued. One of those people was taken to a hospital for treatment, and then you had 1 firefighter that was injured, correct?
Yes, a total of 3 people.
Oh. Sorry, you already answered that question.
All right.
Anything else that you would like to add?
Nope, I'm good. I got a long night now, so.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, I'm good.
Thanks,
You guys
sir.
are.
All right.
Thank you.
Of course. Sorry, guys. I like doing it all at once.
No one was
makes
live,
it
right?
easier.
No one was streaming.
All right, you've been listening to Battalion Chief Anthony Chittum talking about this fire you see right there. This is Island Cove, a condominium complex in Hampton. Quite a bit of smoke, lots of damage there, and not just fire damage, but water damage as well. The battalion chief spoke about 3 people being injured. They have done a search, a primary and a secondary search, looking for any other victims, and they do believe that right now there are no other victims. That's good news. They don't believe this fire is suspicious, and this happened, I guess about maybe about an hour ago. Let's go to our reporter on the scene, Shane Fordham, who just finished listening to the battalion chief as well. Shane, what kind of information can you tell us about what you're seeing and hearing around you, and kind of recap what the battalion chief told you?
Well, Janet, Chief Chittum just told us that firefighters were on the scene around 12:26 to fight the flames. He said when they got here, they first started seeing flames around the 2nd to 3rd floor area of this structure behind me. As you can see, the fire, they think the fire, they're not entirely sure where the fire originated from, but based on where most of the burning and singeing is in this house, they can only assume at this point that that is most likely where it originated from. They don't have a direct source of the fire yet, but that is what they believe. They said it took them a short while to fully put out the flames. As you can see, they are still paying close attention to the hot spots on the structure now. They said they haven't had to evacuate anyone in any of the nearby houses that even weren't affected by the fire. But as you can see, they also did say that they did have to treat 3 people as a result of this fire. One person who was living in one of these homes and was inside of the house at the time of the fire was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Another person who was inside the house at the time of the fire was treated here at the scene and has no life-threatening injuries or non-life-threatening injuries of any kind. And then we were also told that a firefighter was also transported to the hospital with minor injuries. As you can see, I do have a mask on my face. That is because of how much smoke was circulating in this area as a result of the fire, as many other neighbors had as well. Many other neighbors who were standing out here sort of observing firefighters treat the fire had masks on as well. That just tells you how kind of big the flames were, how much smoke there was in this area. But they say the smoke is kind of cleared out now. They say it doesn't present any health risks to anyone in the area who may have asthma or any sort of other breathing issues. But that is all I have at this time. Live in Hampton, Shane Fordham, 13 News Now.
All right, Shane, I see the big structure behind you that is really badly damaged, but there are a lot of other buildings around there. What did the chief say about other folks in that complex? Are they okay? They don't need to evacuate? The fire just contained to that one structure?
That's right. The fire was contained to this one structure. They didn't have to evacuate anyone living in sort of the adjoining houses or houses directly next to this segment of the homes that was on fire. So as I said, no one needs to be evacuated. They have contained the fire to this set of homes, and no one has been seriously hurt or deceased.
All right, and I know that right now the flames are out, but obviously they have to be concerned about hot spots. And there was, what, a partial collapse?
There was a partial collapse. They did say that did delay them moving into the house, as the fire chief himself, as the PIO said himself, he hasn't been able to step inside of the structure yet because of the partial collapse. And he also said that the location of this house presented somewhat of a challenge as well. As you can see, this house is kind of at the end of the street here, and it has a body of water on one side. So usually he said that they like to attack the fire from multiple angles, multiple sides. You know, fighting that is the most efficient way to fight the fire. But because there is only one road that is also narrow at that leading to this fire, they couldn't get as much equipment as they wanted to. So it kind of affected the way they were able to tame the flames. But he said it did not tamper with their efficiency and their timeliness in putting out the flames. So as you said, right now, they're mostly concerned about the hot spots, just trying to make sure that there is no residual effects or damage that can lead to maybe another breakout. But that is what the current situation is as of now.
Well, we can imagine it will take some time to figure out exactly how this fire started, but do they see this as suspicious at all?
No, they do not see this as suspicious. As I said before, they haven't determined an actual cause of the fire, but they are able to confirm that there is no foul play suspected. There is no arson suspected. It could have just been a freak accident, but as I said, they have not confirmed an actual start of the fire, but they are able to confirm that there is no reason to believe that there was any foul play involved in this fire.
All right, and Shane, if you can explain a little bit about the area around that complex. I know it's right there at the Hampton River. Is it near any other neighborhood structures that you can tell?
Well, like I said, it is up against a body of water. We usually do see boats, kind of, personally owned boats up and down this area. But this is a residential area. This is sort of the condominium section of this residential neighborhood. As you can see, it is at the end of this street. There's only really one entrance street to get to where we are now, which is why that presented some complications in terms of fighting this fire, getting to the location. As I said, they usually like to fight the fires from multiple angles, but they were of course limited because of where this fire happened, because of where this location happened.
All right, Shane, thank you so much. We know that you will stay there on the scene and continue to gather some more information. And of course, we will have a full report from you coming up at 4 o'clock. But again, just to recap, you can see the damage there. It's pretty bad right there in Hampton on Island Cove Court. This is a condominium complex, 3 people injured. Fortunately, no life-threatening injuries that we know of. We know that the firefighters have done both a primary and a secondary search of any victims, and right now they have not found anybody else trapped in all of that damage. This building was built, I believe, in 1986, and at that time, sprinkler systems were not required by code. And obviously, if that had been the case, it could have helped the situation a little bit. We know the firefighters are there; they're gonna be continuing to try to put out any hot spots. There was a partial collapse of the roof there. You can tell by that damage there. So underneath all of that debris could be hot spots, areas that are still burning. So they're focusing on that right now. They did talk about a little bit of difficulty getting to the scene. That's because this complex is located right there at the Hampton River, and then there's just a narrow road that leads to it. So, I mean, we can be thankful that more people were not injured in this. We are certainly hopeful that the 3 people who were injured and the firefighter, that they are doing okay. 13 News Now will have a complete report coming up at 4 o'clock, at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock. You can also log on to 13newsnow.com for the latest information, and also stay here on 13 News Now Plus. I'm Janet Roach. Thank you.